2010 March, PAX Boston. So we'll try to come out and see, this side of the nation on an annual basis.
That's the plan. Q. All right, thank you guys. Yeah.
Why the hell do you like New Kids on the Block so much?
Are you referring to NKOTB?
He might not have the new album. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, not everything you read on the internet is true.
He likes Jordan, actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch that up. That PCG game based on ping pong. Right? But set in the Paint the Line universe, so you're battling communists.
Best story ever.
Two kinds of communists. That's the great thing.
Yeah.
They just keep on giving.
And we actually approached the Upper Deck guys.
Yeah, it was at San Diego Comic-Con. We thought that Upper Deck did a really good job with the World of Warcraft card game.
And so we went over there, and without being asked to, we pitched them our idea. And, I think they thought we were joking at first. Ping pong's easy joking.
This is the problem, is that if you have a reputation for putting humorous JPEGs on the internet, humorous obviously is in quotation. If you have a reputation for that, people always think you're trying to amuse them.
Yeah.
Even when you're trying to tell them something serious from your heart. And so, he's like, oh, and I was like, no, seriously, this is real. He's like, that doesn't make any, that's nonsense, actually. What you told me is completely incoherent. I'm trying to run a business here. Okay, you're trying to run me to the fucking ground. So, I said, you taught me now. But in 10 minutes, you're going to be back at our booth saying, you know what, that's actually an awesome idea. Not 10 minutes later, he came by and was like, I just can't stop thinking about it. No, I mean it. I think it can really work.
So fingers crossed. Maybe we'll see it. Gabe's a little older.
Right.
I mean, Gabe's 4 now, and he does play games, definitely. But, it's very specific, I mean, before 8 o'clock is his bedtime, right? So before 8 o'clock, if he wants to play a game, it's going to be a game that he and I play together, right? So it's going to be Little Big Planet is the thing right now that we just play most nights. Or he might want to play Lego Batman or Lego Star, like he loves all those Lego games. And then if he wants to play something by himself, it's going to be something super educational on the PC, maybe like, we got a bunch of the Bob the Builder stuff or the Sesame Street stuff, right? But mostly for me, it's trying to guide him through it, like, if he wants to play on the console, I said this at New York Comic Con because someone had asked, is it hard to make sure that what games he's exposed to are appropriate for his age? It's like, it's not hard at all if you're even a little bit engaged, like if you're even just a tiny bit interested in what's going on in their life, it's not difficult at all. And obviously we know about video games, and so we're in a perfect position to, like, I'm excited, thinking about as he gets older, like what games I'm going to give him. Like, pretty soon he'll be old enough to play this. That's really fun.
When I was a younger person, it's crazy, I know. I wrote a pterodactyl. I remember that it's like I came home and I had purchased a rap album or something, and my mother was scandalized, right? I mean, that's the situation we have. But you can't imagine that if someone brings home a rap album, it's rap music. They listen to it. It's just much like other music, right? There's nothing strange about it. The fact of the matter is that she was just entirely disengaged from the kind of culture I was consuming and the kind of person I was becoming. If you refuse to do that, if you commit yourself to engagement, and it's just lucky that video games are something that we happen to have a knowledge of, it's very, very difficult to pull one over on you, I think.
As far as keeping them off of it for 6 hours, that's just, like anything. I don't let them watch cartoons for 6 hours all day either. You just have to be a good parent.
You may have to leverage the dad voice.
Yeah, sometimes you use the dad voice, which I'm sure that you realized you had.
You felt that tingle in your esophagus.
Yeah,
that was the dad voice.
The first time I said, because I said so. Did you always think like, you know, you're cradling him there, he's just been born, you're like, any question you have, son, I will answer to my best ability. I'll never say no. It's like, how come this thing happened? Because I said so. Definitely, yeah. I think it's really improved my digital work, doing actual acrylic paintings, yeah. It's made me think a lot more about color and texture, definitely.
And secondly, this related to you recently running Dungeons & Dragons games. Do you find that your campaigns are more fighting-centric or role-playing centric? Do you think that's affected by the fact that you're
right now, they're more fighting-centric just because the group, like I'm new to D&D, and my entire group is new to D&D, and a lot of them don't feel comfortable role-playing yet, you know? And so I'm sort of trying to ease everyone into it. You know, we do a lot of fights. You know, I sent the Dragonborn a link to an online common to Draconic translator, just in case. You know, and you know, each week we get together, there's a little bit more role-playing that happens. You know, and everyone's sort of learning their character and learning how they would behave. And we did our first skill challenge, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and that was very role-playing intensive. You know. But yeah, we've all been having a blast with it. Yeah.
You know.
No, I mean, we definitely have arguments a lot. But they never affect the comic. And if they do, they become a comic, right? I mean,
and that's true. We do try to, if we have a genuine disagreement, usually the process that we use to work that out is to make a comic about it.
Yeah.
The comic is sort of like our steam valve in general, and so it's just sort of developed that utility for us.
I mean, there have been a couple times where an issue has popped up, and he'll say, oh man, can you believe X is happening? And I'll say,
yes.
Yeah, absolutely, they're 100% right. Like, what are you fucking talking about? This is crazy. And so then that argument becomes a comic strip, you know. As far as like super bad falling outs, those are few and far between.
You did kick me out of the house once because I said that there was no God and that your religion was a lie.
Yeah, I was young. Yeah, that was a bad one.
And I'm sorry about that.
I'm not the one you should be apologizing.
Right, there's no God.
Jesus. Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Where did you get that idea? Also, are you making more of a Jesus-esque? Because mine's really ratty.
Don't be a dick. Where did we get the idea for how Jesus behaves? I don't know. I just always thought he would be cool. You know, like I mean, he knows what's going on down here. You know, he probably likes video games. Like I just always got the impression that if he did show up, he'd just chill out and play some Mario Kart. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I don't go to church a lot anymore, so...
In general, I think it was just the idea that Jesus was relevant.
Yeah.
That he did not stop developing, that he's not this person from a long time ago. This is me interpreting what I think he might have thought. But that there's a continuity. Like the personage of Jesus Christ has a continuity, and he knows what kids are talking about now, and you know what I'm saying? Like, the idea that he's just always this other guy is just ridiculous. To me, but yeah.
I used to say super a lot, and you ordered a Roy Rogers, and we were just at New York Comic Con. Did you like hang out with Jackson Publick and Doc Hammer from the Venture Brothers? And if you didn't, could you?
I'm gonna blow your mind. Neither of us watch Venture Brothers. The only cartoon I get to watch is Dora the Explorer. Occasionally I'll get SpongeBob. That's an exciting time.
She's leaving. She's like, I'm not enough of this shit. Fucking brothers. No, it's like,
she has class.
It's all good. No. We want you to go.
She's got, this is a boring lecture 101.
I screwed this up so bad.
I don't want to be late.
No, you're great, and we're bad. What we did was wrong.
Bye.
I hope to see you later. We'll hang out. 319.
previously you talked about, news posts taking hours to write and the orbital laser of linking to other sites. The knowledge that if you tell people you love something, it will be destroyed. Does that ever affect the way that you write news posts, or do you try to not link to certain things in fear that you'll break them?
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and in fact, it was like Desert Bus for Hope. That's a perfect example. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So these guys were playing this totally awful video game, this super awful video game, which was awful. And they played it for like 1 million years or whatever, and they made money. And then I linked to it because I wanted them to make even more money, and it destroyed their website. Obviously, that's not the goal. And so these days, what I do more often than not is when I'm going to link to somebody, I usually try to get in touch with them and ask them how many rack mounts they have, what their what kind of burst data they can pull, and I try to get some basic specs if I'm going to link to somebody that I think might not be able to track it down.
Yeah, the last link I did was Obsidian Portal, which is a site I found that was actually made by a bunch of Penny Arcade fans, and they put together this sort of custom wiki that you could use to keep track of your D&D campaigns. And I thought it was incredible, and I really found it useful, and so I linked it and completely destroyed it. And I felt so bad because I should have warned them first, but yeah, I mean, you really do need to be careful. With great power, great responsibility.
Comes great acceptance. I mean, like developers, like publishers, I assume we're talking about, because the publishers assume the risk, right? I'm not sure they have a choice in this generation. I think they're up against the wall. I think the increased development costs of this gen, especially on consoles, have just laid them out.
And then, EA released those super interesting numbers where it's like, okay, you guys wanted us to take a risk, so we made Dead Space and Mirror's Edge, and you didn't fucking buy it. So thanks. There's no, and they've come out since and said we're still going to keep pushing those brands forward, which is fantastic of them. But it's certainly they were not rewarded for that risk as much as we'd like to believe that they would be. Whatever they're doing it to stay in business. And it's unfortunate. But that's why the indie scene is so great, right?
I would say that's part of the Greenhouse initiative. Is just to sort of get those things on platters and present them to you. Because there's a lot of incredible ideas out there, but yeah, not every one of them is from an Electronic Arts. Like, those places are publicly held companies, and they're quite conservative as a result in most ways.
One of the reasons I think we work with Ubisoft so much is because they do take so many risks, and I really love that. Like, when the latest have you guys all played the new Prince of Persia? Yeah. It's just gorgeous. And it didn't have to be that good, they could have gone, like Prince of Persia 2 was a good example, right? Where he was Warrior Within, where he was dark and brooding, and they could just keep pumping out that franchise and not have to innovate each time, but they're trying to, and I don't know, I respect that.
Really kind of piss you off?
Yeah, kind of. I don't know if I should say it. Maybe you should. Is it? I don't even know if it's a thing.
You should. You should, and then
it's the video games live thing.
And then I'll side with them.
Okay. Well, recently I had the opportunity to go to Video Games Live, which is everyone know what it is? Yeah. Some people don't. Basically, this show comes into your city, and they wrangle your local symphony into doing a night of video game themed music. Okay? And the symphony is up on stage, and behind them is a giant screen, and as they play the song from Pole Position, there's video of Pole Position running in the background, and everyone's going crazy, right? It was a really neat experience. And then it came to the intermission, and the symphony walks off stage, and they just start showing game clips. And it would just be like Kirby running across the screen for 2 seconds, right? And the place would go crazy. In fact, it would go as crazy as they did when the symphony was on stage playing. And to me, it was like, well, why are they even there? Like, if we're that easy to please. I guess I didn't understand the point of the show at that point. I talked to you about it afterwards, and I had a hard time, it seemed weird to me.
For me, I would say that tribalism, this platform tribalism, I imagine it's not as intense once you become an adult. But the platform tribalism that you get in your average Kotaku thread is just really bizarre and injurious.
The platform zealots.
It may be that this is like a sect, some bizarre sect, and that doesn't reflect, a trend in the greater culture. But it's very hard to get progress and a critical dialogue going when, 70% of the people who will partake in the dialogue are batshit fucking loco insane.
Yeah, but I think that's young people, right? I mean, because when I was a kid, it was console where
GoBots and Transformers.
Well, sure, but it was also Nintendo versus Sega. Like as a person who read Sega Visions and owned a Genesis, if you had a Nintendo, I was gonna have an argument with you. The problem is,
did you have words?
Yeah, the only difference was back then I didn't have access to a fucking message board, right? Like it was in the lunchroom where I would see the guy with Nintendo Power and be like, oh, Nintendo Power.
Clear?
Yeah, and now what we're seeing in these threads, don't you think, is just it's that same mindset. Because you're a kid, you can only have one console.
Yeah.
And you gotta believe in the one you got.
You get to dance with the one you're with?
You gotta believe you backed the right horse. I don't know, I feel like if I had access to...
What's the Nintendo one? Weetards. I didn't make it up.
I don't know, now we're just talking, so that's not...
Yeah.
How constrained do you feel by your audience? I mean, now that it's so large and they have expectations, do you have ideas that you want to put down?
No.
We don't give two shits what you guys think.
No, it's I guess maybe it's lucky for the development of the script, but we're sort of rude, I guess, in some ways. So even if I felt constrained, I'm selfish enough to try to make a weird, you know what I'm saying? To try to push the comic in some weird thing, like a ping pong thing, or Armageddon.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is you keep rewarding us every time we do something super bizarre. Like, we tried to punish you with Twist and Catch Me. Said, here's something horrible. And you loved it.
And really, I remember being on a plane going somewhere and thinking that if we were going to take a risk and make it big, you kind of had to do it in this time frame after you graduate until you're about 33 or so. So once that window closes, you're done. I mean, honestly, if you're 33 or so and you haven't sort of found your dream job, you're pretty much relegated to try and figure out your 401k and how you're going to retire. So that was my thought process behind the whole thing. And of course, I was a super fan of Penny Arcade, and I really thought they were... I was so surprised that no one had picked them up before I had even talked to them. That answer your question?
Oh, yeah, Robert.
What's up?
Tell them about when you quit your job at 7-Eleven.
I was working for a consulting company.
You wasn't doing the Slurpee machine.
No, I was not actually manning the Slurpee machine, but I was consulting for 7-Eleven corporate, trying to figure out what they could do to essentially make their business look more like Japan 7-Elevens. And
it's like a supermarket. You can go buy produce.
Yeah.
People buy apples.
It's amazing. Like the 7-Eleven experience in Japan is supernatural. Yeah, no, it's super cool. Like you actually want to sit there and hang out and read magazines. And
this story's awesome.
Long story short, the sort of what pushed me over the edge, thinking, oh yeah, maybe I should consider a different line of work, was when one of the clerks pulled a knife on me, and I decided, yeah, you know what? There's probably other things to do, like these webcomics.
They probably don't have a knife.
Yeah, well, then Jerry did kick me in the balls last week.
I did. They became inflamed. That's because I struck with such precision, Robert. No, I do, everybody.